to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, well-known radio sports personality Bruce McGowan, and Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX-TV in San Francisco. Today's show is going to be very interesting because we are welcoming back Steve Travers, former professional baseball pitcher and author, to discuss 20 years after the OJ Simpson Trial. It ought to be very interesting to culminate the last 20 years, with specifically the Cowlings driving the Bronco. We're going to go back in time and try to go through all those memories of the trial. Okay, we're also going to touch just a little bit on LeBron James being a free agent and what that means. Our trivia theme for today is going to be athletes and the TV show Seinfeld. So if you know the TV show, hopefully you'll get this. And we're going to have, at every commercial break, a sports trivia question. We're going to be giving away 3 vacations to the first 3 emails with the correct answer. And the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina. And the vacations are free. Their only request is a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. And you can listen to Sports Econ 101 on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Sports Byline USA, and CRN, as well as other stations across the country. This segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding, get this, over 8%, secured by real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. You'll be extremely happy with what they can provide to you through your regular investments or your IRA. If you have a question, you can email Edward at sportsecon101.com and we'll answer it on the air. And don't touch that dial. When we come back, Steve Travers, former professional baseball pitcher and author, is going to discuss the 20 years after the OJ Simpson trial. It ought to be very interesting. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We will be right back. OJ trial and get to recap.
All right.
Yeah. Anniversary of.
Yeah. Anniversary, that's right. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my co-host, Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan.
Oh, watch out. He's full of vim and vigor.
And there's a reason for that. The reason is because we have a special guest, Steve Travers. He's been on our show before, former professional baseball pitcher and author, and today he's going to discuss 20 years after the OJ Simpson trial. What updates do you have for us on that?
How about the car chase? That's
he's still in jail, isn't he, Steve?
No, he broke out yesterday.
Is he driving a white Ford Bronco?
No, it's a red one.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What are you working on?
Well, it's a book. It's online at a website called smashwords.com, and so it's actually free. You can read it as an online book, or you can download it onto any devices like Kindle or mobile devices.
How do you make money on that?
You don't.
You don't make money on it.
No, I don't make money on it.
Wow.
But it's a way to promote what you're doing. And I've talked to Steve about this. Steve has written all these books over the years, and some people say, "Oh, God, why is Steve always pushing these books?" Well, it's because he's got to. It's his livelihood.
That's right.
Yeah. That's how he makes a living. Hello, people.
Yeah. Well, sure.
Yeah. Come on.
What I like about Smashwords, I'll give you an example. I wrote a book a few years ago, the history of USC football, and the book was about 1,200 pages. And my publisher said you have to get it down to 300 pages. So, that's obviously a lot of great stories that never got published.
Or just make it a
2/3 of the book slashed.
Yeah. Could you have,
Well, I could have tried that, but that's I don't know if I've got the name to be able to do that. But anyway, so I just was able to put the whole book, and I have several books like that like A Tale of Three Cities, which I think I gave you. That's like my original book was much longer.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's the book that Steve wrote, and we should mention this, wrote about the Giants, Dodgers, Yankees, and the great rivalry that carried over to the West Coast and saw the Giants and Dodgers fight for the pennant and go to the playoffs. And then the Giants, of course, played the Yankees, and that was Mickey Mantle's last great team. They won a World Series. Actually, that was the last one that he won in 1962. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. How about that? I'm old enough to remember these things. That's scary.
Okay,
I
so
like about
but getting back to OJ,
OJ, yeah.
have you found in your research that it's one of those things where most people remember where they were.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Once the breaking news came out that where was he going, to Mexico? Where was he going with Al Cowlings driving that white Ford Bronco? I can remember being in the newsroom and we're all just riveted, just watching the screen. It was all anybody was talking about.
Well, it's great that you mentioned Mexico because in all of my writings, I've always made reference to a Sam Peckinpah movie called The Getaway. In which Steve McQueen and Alan McGraw make a getaway to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And I always equated OJ's chase with that possibility.
And not going 20 miles an hour, but okay. Go ahead.
And at that particular time, the NBA championships were going
That's
on. There
right.
were several things going on and around that day that were. Networks were like, geez, what do we do? Do we break? Do we? What do we? There were some big time decisions that were made.
Kept going back, or even having it in a little box.
Yeah.
I remember it's funny because my son was little and we had a refrigerator being delivered to the house. Suddenly the guys, the delivery guys, they stop what they're doing so we can all watch TV and find out what's going on.
Right. Just amazing.
Where were you, Steve, when this was going on?
Well, I was coming home from the gym and hearing it on the radio, and then immediately, and then there were messages, watch television, and immediately turned it on. And so I'm pretty sure it was a Friday night.
It was
6 o'clock.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm sure all of you are familiar enough with those freeways. I used to live near the 605, and that was a parking lot.
Yeah.
And the 405, the 6. Well, he was on all of them.
Was he?
Yeah, he was not on one. He went from different freeways, all of which opened up like Moses parting the Red Sea.
Made the grand tour is what you're
He
saying.
really did. Yeah. He started. Well, let me think here. I think it's like 405 to the 105 to the 110 to the 605.
Hike.
Back to the 405,
And he finally ended up at his mansion, didn't they?
Right.
And they arrested him there.
I wonder if that was the original intent. Just because he's going so slowly, and he knows, everybody's watching him. It's like there's no way he's going to be able to cross.
Well, I'm sure obviously they had the radio on in the Ford Bronco. There were calls from. I can remember the great Jim Hill.
Oh yeah.
The legendary sports guy.
Yeah.
You get calling it. OJ, please turn yourself in.
Oh, they had the whole.
Yeah.
They brought his mother in. They had, I think his kids.
Well, there was concern that he was going to kill himself.
Well, he had a cell phone.
Yeah.
He had a cell phone, so they had that number.
Yeah.
And plus, it was all over the radio. But now here's the amazing thing is that everyone is hearing it on the radio. So, even people who aren't listening to the radio, they are reacting to something. They're seeing what's going on. They've got to be turning on the radio. No matter what station you're turning on, it's OJ.
Yeah. I remember I was at the Giants game that night, and in the press box, all of us were watching the television.
Oh,
None of us were watching. We were keeping an eye on the game, but and it was interesting too because I was just talking to my daughters here, watching us do the show, and she was telling me. I was talking to my wife about this. She was telling me, she goes, "You realize that 20 years ago, this week that we first went out, so I met my wife 20 years ago this week, and it was right about the time of OJ."
Also, it overshadowed the retirement announcement of Arnold Palmer.
Oh my God, that's right.
There was so much going on.
Yeah, well, that was also the year of the Republican Revolution. It was when Newt Gingrich, shook his fist at Bill Clinton. It was also the year that the NFL instituted after the 49ers won their last Super Bowl. They instituted the
Plan B.
Plan B. It was also the year of the baseball strike when baseball nearly died.
Yeah, that's right. Matt Williams was ahead.
Yeah.
There was a World Cup going on. The Rangers had just won the Stanley Cup.
First time in 50 years or something? 53 years. Yeah.
Wow, 1994.
Just amazing. Just amazing. And he's still, and we're still after the real killers, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's what I've got.
Okay, I got it. Before we go to break, though, I do have to say this one thing. This whole idea of, if the glove doesn't fit, you can't acquit.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Doctrine.
Think about it. Well, you're telling me that a killer can't purposely buy a glove that's either too big or too small? If you want to throw people off, that would be kind of a simple way to do it, wouldn't it? I mean,
It'd
I'm
be
not
one,
bragging.
it'd be one way to do
Yeah.
it, certainly if you're thinking ahead.
Yeah, I mean, rather than, I'm sorry, it doesn't fit, so that's it. You can't quit it.
Boy, the LA judicial system, boy, that's a big one that got away, man.
Well, you
Big
think
one.
about it too. I remember one of the jurors at the very end when they said, he's not guilty. Didn't he kind of like raise his fist and
Yeah.
like, all right.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, that's not
Oh yeah.
independent.
Well, it was, and that was such a divisive situation. I mean, I hate to say it, it was a black and white thing, but really it wasn't. It was a celebrity thing, and I think the black and white thing really obscured that, because a lot of people just felt like this guy's getting special treatment, and it's interesting now. Now, of course, he's serving 15 years for this invasion of the hotel room where he tried to get his memorabilia back, and he was holding up some people with a gun, and that seems a little steep, but maybe they were sort of a makeup call.
I can remember the last time I saw OJ Simpson. It was Joe Montana's last game. He was working for NBC, sideline reporting for the AFC Championship game, 1992, I believe.
Yeah.
And that was it. I can remember trying to say something to him, but he was just in the zone. Well, he was getting ready to go on the air, so
Okay, tell you what, hey guys, we're going to cut to our first commercial break here, and again, the theme is athletes in the TV show Seinfeld.
Oh.
Okay? So if you know the show, it still might not be too easy. Okay.
It's about the same time as OJ, too.
Right
about
that's
the
true.
height, yeah,
That's sorry.
yeah.
Okay. Here's a first trivia question. George Costanza reprimands George Steinbrenner for trading who for Ken Phelps?
Oh.
Not yet. The first 3 emails with the correct answer win a free 3-day 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email edward@sportsecon101.com the answer to this question. Again, we're talking about the TV show Seinfeld. George Costanza, remember he worked for the Yankees, right?
That's right.
And he's talking to Steinbrenner, and he gets angry with Steinbrenner for trading this player for Ken Phelps. Okay? I remember both of these.
You don't want me to give the answer?
Not yet. When we come
No, you
back
have
to
to
break.
wait.
Okay.
For some reason, I know it. I'm
that's
not
a
a big
pretty good
fan
one.
of the show, but I know that.
You know this one. Okay, don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back with that answer. Okay.
Phelps.
All right.
I remember seeing Ken Phelps break up a no-hitter in Oakland against.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember who it was who was pitching the no-hitter. I was pulling into the parking lot because I wasn't covering the game, and I got a call in the 6th inning. Get over there right now.
Prieto?
No, it was
Jill Prieto.
No, it was much earlier than that. It was back in the. God, it would have been
Steve McCaddy.
It was somebody like Kurt Young, only not
Might have been.
quite that good.
Mike Warren.
Mike Warren did
Rick
pitch a no-hitter.
Honeycutt.
Yeah. No,
I played on a minor league team with Kurt Young and Mike Warren, and you can look this up. Might be the greatest minor league team of all times.
Wow.
We were.
What was this?
Modesto.
Oh yeah.
I believe our final. I was only on the team a short period. And, I believe the final record was something like 115.
Wow.
45. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
We lost those 45.
It wasn't me. I never even pitched an inning for that.
All right. When we come back, we'll get into like some other stuff about what you wrote about.
Oh, anything you want to talk about. It's not a big deal.
Okay,
Here we can go free form.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn.
You're out.
And Bruce McGowan.
He's guilty.
He's guilty. Okay. And we have a special guest. We've had him on the show once before. We have him back
Friend of the
again.
program.
Friend of the program, Steve Travers. Okay.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
And this week in baseball. Okay.
I can't believe what I just saw.
What a great moment for the Detroit Tigers.
Okay, here we go. Our first trivia question, and all the questions have to do with athletes in the TV show Seinfeld. George Costanza, Jerry's friend, reprimands George Steinbrenner for trading who for Ken Phelps? And Steve, you said you know the answer to that.
Well, any of you guys know?
No?
Go ahead, Steve.
I'm drawing a blank.
Jay Buhner, really?
That is correct.
Jay
Very
Buhner.
good.
That's what
Buhner.
Costanza says to Steinberg. He says, Jay Buhner, really?
That was a bad trade too. The Mariners got a good deal out of that.
That's why
He teamed
George
up with
Costanza was very upset.
Teamed up with Ken Griffey Jr. and some
Wasn't
other guys.
he on that Mariners team that had the big rally in '95.
Yeah, in
They
'95. Beat the Yankees.
playoffs.
That's exactly right.
But then lost to Cleveland Indians.
Yeah. Hey, I'm curious. I know you guys want to talk about this. 1994 really, and Vernon probably would be able to address this better than any of us because you work in television and I work mostly in radio. And Steve, I'd like to get your opinion.
My fourth year at Cron.
Yeah, there you go.
I just watch television. So, okay, go ahead.
Well, television journalism really, that was kind of a watershed.
Oh, no question about it.
I mean, tabloid journalism really took over, don't you think?
Oh, it's a big part of my book.
Yeah. I mean, tell us your.
Well, I believe that was the year around that time. There was liberal use of the word alleged. That was alleged. You didn't want to.
Oh, sure.
You don't want to say it was fact, but allegedly.
Well, Jim Rome just used that word over and over.
Oh, my gosh.
Talk about anything, he always used the word alleged.
Well, does OJ get any royalties for bringing this to the forefront?
He'd love to have it. He'd love to be able to get out of prison. There was a good piece on SI about it.
Greta
He's
Van
miserable now.
Susteren, Court TV,
Yeah.
Larry King. Now, this is before Fox News, so there's really
it made David Abrams.
Yeah.
Made it.
And CNN was really the only 24-hour a day station. But you had Court TV, and which would who'd ever heard of Court TV?
Yeah.
And it made superstars out of all the people on
The
that,
prosecutor,
on that show.
Marsha
Clark.
Marsha
Yeah.
Clark.
Well, I was going to bring up Chris Darden, the real God's lonely man, as Thomas Wolfe used to call him. And the interesting thing about Christopher Darden is he has a Bay Area connection. He grew up in Richmond, which is a tough place to grow up. It's an impoverished city, and he somehow pulled himself out of that environment, gets an education, and he goes to Los Angeles, and and what is his motivation? To uproot racism in the LAPD. That was really what he wanted to do. And then he ends up having everything turned against him. And so it's such an ironic and Shakespearean irony that, he ends up is almost the bad guy in a situation like that when his motivation. And, I think about Chris Darden looking out, because what do you see from Richmond? You see Marin County. You're in Richmond, you're looking at the wealth and the elite wealth of Marin counties. He grows up every day thinking, I'm going to get out of this town. Out of this town. Education is my key, and eventually he does. Only to have everything turned against him.
What happened to him, by the way?
Where is he now?
Yeah, because we know Johnny Cochran is dead. I mean, he died a few years ago. I'm not sure what Marsha Clark is doing.
Kardashian.
He's also passed away.
Before the Kardashians.
Well, his daughters never would have had the fame they had, which of course. Well, what has happened to Christopher Darden?
He certainly didn't want to continue in the practice of law. He was turned against it. He wrote a book or two. Did his share of media, and he's done some. I think he's a professor. He's been in academia.
Bright guy.
Building young minds.
Very bright guy.
Yeah.
And he and Marsha get a lot of heat for their failure to prosecute. But again, you're talking about tabloid television. This is the real culprit here, because you had some legitimate witnesses who saw some peripheral things that really would have helped the prosecution. And they sold their stories to television and tabloids and newspapers, these magazines that you see in the Safeways. And so they became witnesses you couldn't use because, did you sell your story to, eyewitness, Inside Edition?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there were also 9 jurors that turned over too. I mean, that jury of 12, there were only 3 original jurors left. Interesting little sidelight. Rodney Knox, who was a longtime PR assistant with the 49ers, his brother, I can't remember the gentleman's first name, was on that jury for a long time.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Rodney Knox's older brother,
Wow.
I believe his older brother, was on that jury. Yeah.
Can you imagine having to give up? I mean, how long was the trial?
It lasted several months. Didn't it?
Can you imagine your regular job going, hey, excuse me, I'm going to be out for many, many months, but I get $5 a day for
Right.
being a juror.
Right.
I was a juror for 2 weeks at Marin Civic Center, and it was quite an imposition on me, so I can imagine.
They have to put you up in a hotel or something
No,
like that?
I
didn't get sequestered.
I did not get sequestered, but it was still 2 weeks of my time.
Wow.
But something, I will say this. that is our duty to be in a country where we have all these freedoms. I think it's a small price to pay. Granted, it wasn't in
I thought our duty was to try to get out of jury duty.
But you know what I'm saying? We get to be, when you're in the jury,
Yeah.
you get to be the law.
I don't know. I kind of feel like they really should have paid jurors. But you get them from different angles. And the funny thing, interesting, I was for some reason thinking about this. Circumstantial evidence sometimes is better than eyewitness.
Oh yeah.
Because eyewitnesses can, make mistakes on things.
Mhm.
And circumstantial, you go, well, you gotta put these two together. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck.
Right.
See, a lot of people don't know that OJ almost got into a car crash as he was driving back from the crime scene. But the woman who he got into the altercation with sold her story, so she never got on the witness stand.
Oh,
She saw OJ flustered, screaming and yelling, "Get out of my way! Get out of my way!" as he's driving against a red light in Brentwood. Things like this.
And she was the only one who saw that?
No, I think there were others, but I don't think they could identify the others. But she was found, but she sold her story. And then he also parked in a place that he'd never ever. He parked in the same spot every day for 20 years. Okay, this one night parks in the back where he's hiding the vehicle.
Interesting story about OJ. OJ went to Galileo High School in San Francisco. He played football on a team that a friend of mine played on, Joe Angel.
Joe Angel was the quarterback.
Longtime voice, one of the voices of the Baltimore Orioles. And OJ was one, and you know this, Vernon, you do too, Steve and Edward also. I think most of our audience do, maybe some of the younger people don't. OJ was one of the most charming, likable people, one of the most exciting performers.
Yeah. His Q rating was through the roof. Just ask
God.
Hertz.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And I think,
rented a lot of cars.
I think we know now that he was abusive towards his wife, but I get the feeling. I'm not trying to psychoanalyze the guy here. I think if he did this crime, which he probably did, it was probably so horrible for him to contemplate. He probably went into this black rage where he just literally blacked out. He didn't know what he was doing. I mean, I'm not making excuses.
He was just about to come out with a brand new NBC series. I believe it was on Navy SEALs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was going to be like the head of this this covert Navy SEAL outfit.
Oh my God.
They go in and do the dirty work.
And you know what?
Under the radar.
You know what? Nicole made fun of it.
Oh man.
And it enraged him. See, Nicole made fun of his acting ability, and Nicole thought his Nordberg character from Naked Gun was a joke.
Well, the whole thing was
the Naked Gun thing,
it
that
was
was a
a
spoof
joke.
on everything.
But it was still good comedy.
Yeah.
But this enraged OJ that his wife, who he's providing for, is
not supporting him.
Maybe she's comparing it to like Jim Brown in The Dirty Dozen. Like that's a real
Jefferson.
Well, also the fact that he was.
Wait a minute. OJ, he was the night guardsman in the Towering Inferno.
Oh, that's true.
Remember that?
That was a fun movie. Great cast.
Security.
Yeah,
Anybody in there? I think that was his line. Yeah.
The thing about OJ though, here's another thing. I mean, he was really upset with Nicole because apparently, I guess she had this affair with the guy that he also supposedly killed, and he's got a couple of kids in addition to this. So I mean, hell hath no fury like a husband who is scorned. I mean,
well, and you talked about Galileo, and I guess we all probably have met him, right?
Oh,
Sure.
I interviewed him at the Super Bowl.
Well,
he couldn't have been a nicer guy. This is years ago, years before the incident.
Well, I have quite a bit of personal association. First of all, my father taught business law at City College of San Francisco. OJ was in his class.
Oh, wow.
And when OJ was, after his freshman year, Arizona State was willing to give him a scholarship. He still had not earned his AA degree, which I guess is what he needed. His grades were so bad. And my dad was part of a group of CCSF professors who worked with Marv Goo and saying, OJ, you need one more year if you really want to go to USC.
Now, Marv Goo, for those who don't know,
is USC assistant.
Right, assistant coach.
So, how do I become a USC fan? My dad was a Cal guy, but we start watching SC games, and I'm going, who's this? And he goes, that's OJ Simpson. I know him from City College. So this is how I become an SC fan. We fast forward in 1989, which is shortly after I graduated from SC. I had a short period of time as a manager of a place called the 502 Club, which was almost across from the college.
Okay, we're going to come back to that story. The audience, stay on your heels.
The audience is leaning forward.
Leaning forward. Okay. Sorry, we have some heartbreaks that we have to do here. Okay, second commercial break. Trivia question again. The theme is athletes in the TV show Seinfeld. Jerry had a, quote, man crush on which athlete who ended up dating Elaine for a short period of time. Okay? The first 3 emails win a free 3-day 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Holy smokes, Steve knows the answer to this one. You can tell him when we get back. Okay.
You like Seinfeld.
For someone that's not a fan of the show.
Yeah, really. Okay, email Edward at Sports
His ears perk up.
101.com to answer this question. Jerry had a, quote, man crush on which athlete who ended up dating Elaine for a short time. Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Wow, I thought these were going to be a little bit too obscure for people.
I'm not absolutely sure about this one, but we'll see if I'm
okay,
right.
We'll see if you're right. Okay.
He's too young to be Derek Jeter because Derek.
It would have been somebody like.
I'll give you a hint and tell me if Eric. Tell me if I'm right.
Edward, yes. I'm one of those
Was
guys.
he a Met?
Yes.
Oh, Keith Hernandez.
You give the answer.
Keith Hernandez, the famous.
I don't want to.
Remember they reenacted the
I don't
famous
wanna
grassy
sound too
knoll?
smart.
Remember they were walking by and supposedly Keith Hernandez spit something out. And
it was Roger.
Keith Hernandez was kind of a jerk, actually. He really was.
I never met Keith
I've
Hernandez.
interviewed him a number of times.
His dad used to be a big wreck all the time.
Yeah. He's another Bay Area guy.
Keith Hernandez?
Yeah.
San
Mateo.
El Cerrito.
No, wasn't it Sarah? Well, he didn't go to Sarah.
I don't think he went to
No.
Sarah.
I don't think he went to Sarah.
I think he's El Camino of South
It was
City.
somewhere down there. Yeah.
Which
He's
had
actually
a
he's
powerhouse.
Greg Jeffries was the Met that went to Sarah.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's not. Hernandez not in the Hall of Fame, is he?
Hernandez?
No, he's not quite good.
He was decent.
Boy, he was something else. Yeah, he was.
And he had one or two really good years.
MVP in '79.
He actually turned out to be an okay guy. He just was kind of a jerk when he was a player.
Yeah, see one of those. Okay.
Yeah.
Just like on the show.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn.
Sup, America?
And Bruce McGowan.
We must convict him.
Getting back to that. Okay. Okay, when we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Again, the theme is athletes on the TV show Seinfeld. Jerry had a man crush on which athlete who ended up dating Elaine for a short time?
He had a great head of hair.
Yes,
Keith Hernandez.
That is correct.
Keith Hernandez. Mets first baseman.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I always think of him as a Cardinal, but again, we're doing the show out of the Bay Area. He's another Bay Area guy. Another guy that's,
we played for the Cardinals a long time.
Oh, for a long time?
Before the Mets.
Before the Mets? Oh,
I
yeah.
would say a Met longer than a Cardinal.
Well,
Yeah,
I always thought of him when he was with the Cardinals about 6 or 7
Well,
years.
his greatest years were probably in the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I know you keep thinking the 86
Well, we think,
Mets.
the 86 Mets.
Well,
sure. The Cardinals weren't that good when he was there.
And I played minors against most of those guys who made up the '86 Mets. Went in the Appalachian League.
Wow.
Most of those guys were on the same team. And Billy Beane was in that program.
The A's
That's
general
right.
manager?
Yeah, he was. He was.
Wasn't he a first-round draft pick by the Mets?
Yeah. And the guy who could have been a part of that and got traded away was Tom Seaver.
Oh.
Tom Seaver had been a Met, and then was traded after the '83 season so he could have been a Met again.
Yeah.
In fact, he was trying to make a comeback because when I broke into television in '85, he was trying to come back and he was with the Tidewater Tides,
Wow.
which is the
Terrific.
AAA farm club for the Mets, and it just didn't work out.
I think he won his 300th game as a member of the Reds. Hey, you mentioned Billy Beane. I guess this is throwing something really out of left field. There was another Billy Beane who spelled his name B-E-A-N, who was the first gay player. I didn't come out, but I don't think he played in the major leagues after he came out.
I'm sure Billy Beane of the A's is just thrilled.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny because Billy Beane.
In fact, my mother actually said to me one time, "Do you know that Billy Beane was gay?" And I had to explain that it was the same phonetic.
Yeah, just saw him in the clubhouse a couple of days ago.
And it's too bad. What's funny? I liked him as a player. For some reason, he doesn't get the respect that I think he deserved.
Who was that?
Which Billy Beane?
The general manager for the A's.
He was a good fill-in guy. He was a good fill-in guy for about a year.
Well, he was supposed to be a superstar. He wasn't.
Yeah, but he turned it around and became a great general manager.
Absolutely.
And then the guy who gave him a shot, Sandy Alverston, used to live in Tiburon. I used to work out with him at Gold's Gym at Corte Madera.
That's my hometown. Yeah.
Very good.
I've been in that house.
Yeah.
They changed the name a few times, but
He still may have that house.
Is that right?
Yeah, he still may own that house.
If I had a house in Tiburon, I wouldn't sell it.
Yeah, I think he rents it out.
Yeah.
Finish off your story about OJ.
Well, okay. So I briefly, for few months, I was a manager of a sports bar, which was a USC bar, and at the time a Raider bar, because the Raiders played at the Coliseum, and it was packed after SC and Raider games. Raiderettes, it was quite a scene. And after
Just for that.
SC games, who would roll in? OJ, Marcus Allen, who was playing with the Raiders. It was Saturdays, and so he had, he wasn't playing. Like if they had a day game the next day for the Raiders, he could go with Nicole all together. It was a scene, and I met all of them.
What a scene!
Yeah, and it was really a wild scene in this place because there were a lot of hangers on. And
well, that's the thing about LA. I'm going down. I hate to say it. I'm going down this weekend to moderate my cousin's funeral, and I mean it sounds really kind of sad. It is sad. But she grew up in Hollywood, and her granddad, my granddad, was a movie producer way back in the 30s. And it's amazing, all the people she knows that know people who, I mean, it's a small town. It's like, you think of New York as a huge city. It really isn't. I lived in New York for a year. Once you get into a place, you get to know people who know people who know people.
That's what I heard, that the top, for acting, it's really only like 20 people. It just kind of barely filters from there.
Well, what is it? The 6 degrees of separation, whatever they call it, that Kevin Bacon thing. What is that, Vernon? The Kevin Bacon thing?
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
It's somehow, everything's related to Kevin Bacon. That's what happened. If you ever play that game.
Yeah.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
So was there something else you wanted to talk about with your dad, the SC, helping OJ?
Well, that was the only connection my dad had. My dad was at City College, and he and Dutch Conlon, who was the president of City College, and they helped talk to OJ and sort of keep him on the straight and narrow.
Now, was he there when they were? I mean, they had a great football program. Even they still do.
Well, they were national
champions
during OJ.
This is City College of San Francisco.
It was Menifee.
George Rush was the quarterback, was he not?
Yeah.
Yes.
Later became the head coach.
Yeah.
OJ, that team was one of the greatest sports teams of any level that you've ever seen. That City College program. He made that program. They've been incredible ever since.
It's so sad, though, that so few people show up to the games, even today. I mean, you get the loyal, hardcore fans, but it's just not big-time major college football. It's small community college football. But,
well, it's not a big-time college football market to begin with.
Yeah,
I mean, try and get sellouts at Cal and Stanford games. You can't even get that.
Isn't it amazing? And getting off the topic here, but Stanford, the last 4 years they've been incredible.
Oh yeah,
and they have been selling out now finally. But for years they were getting 30,000 a game for some pretty good teams with Andrew Luck and I mean Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines. Jeez, anyway.
I don't know, with gas at $4 a gallon. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, those Stanford fans can afford it.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
That's true.
Yeah, let's talk about a great rivalry, Steve. Huh? Stanford USC.
That's one. It goes back to the Pop Warner and the Vow Boys, in the 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
Man, amazing. Anything else you want to tell us about OJ? And we can move on to a couple of things.
OJ.
Go OJ.
Well, gosh, man. I mean, it's really Shakespearean irony, I mean, he really was the embodiment of the African American dream. The American dream and the African American. He was the first black celebrity truly crossed over and really had a free lunch from one end of the country.
You don't think Jim Brown?
No, Jim Brown was
probably Jim Brown. Yeah, he was just too rough around the edges.
Very rough around the edges. And even Jackie Robinson was a bit of a clubhouse lawyer. But OJ Simpson was a guy that everybody just wanted to be a part of, and to throw it away, it's
almost
so
like
sad.
he had a death wish when he just got in trouble again with the Las Vegas thing to where he's now spending on.
Well, I think he did. I think he did that on purpose, and some strange sort of desire to a clown who throws it all away.
Yeah, if you want to read a good article, the SI recently, about 2 weeks ago, had a piece on OJ that was really revealing about what his life was like after Nicole, before he went to prison. I don't know if you saw it, Vernon, but it was, or you did, Steve, or you did, Edward, but it was really kind of sad. It was fascinating, though.
Yeah, I think for everybody out there, I don't know if you guys agree. You know how everybody feels about Vita Blue now.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Vita
Oh,
Blue.
yeah.
That's how everybody felt about O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, listen, I was a big OJ fan. Even when he was with the Bills, You know.
Well, you think about it, the Bills got him because they were such a horrible team, and he played on some terrible teams.
When I was playing Pop Warner football, I wore number 32.
Did you really?
Because of OJ Simpson.
Well, didn't OJ take that number from Jim Brown, though, too? Did he?
Oh, sure.
That's the greatest number in history of sports.
It is.
Koufax, Brown, Magic.
But OJ ended up playing with the 49ers during just before Bill Walsh showed up here. I don't
Bad
know.
knees, though. Bad knees.
He actually played with
the Niners in
Bill
7.
Walsh.
Yeah.
He was with
Well, no,
Walsh 1 year.
Walsh, you're right. He was with
He
Walsh
and Montana were teammates
That's
for
right,
1 year.
for 1 year, 1980. Or 81, I guess
I think it was 79.
79. No, 79, that's right. You're right.
Yeah.
Walsh showed up in 79.
That's when he came out of Notre Dame.
That's right. 2-14 that year. Oof. God, what a terrible team. I'm trying to forget that one.
Oh, you know what? I had a whole bunch of stuff here. Obviously, we don't have time for all of it, but LeBron James, didn't he just
opt out?
Yeah.
Opted out.
Well, he wants to test the waters, and you can get creative with the salary cap. Maybe somebody can bring him in. I don't know who. I mean, would it be Oklahoma City, the Warriors, the Knicks? I think the Knicks is the most.
He's too old. He's what, 26 now?
Could be the Lakers.
He's 30. He's actually 30.
Is he 30?
Yeah.
I just hope he's learned his lesson by now. I mean, he becomes a free agent July 1st. To not drag this thing out.
Oh, yeah. And not have a TV show
and
like
have the big, the decision special where I'm taking my talents to fill in the blank city.
Yeah,
Speaking of tabloid TV, I mean, that's would that ever happen 20 years ago? I don't think so.
Yeah.
OJ Simpson brought that whole era to us, this whole tabloid era of journalism.
Not a stretch. He could re-sign with Miami. Not a stretch.
No, I don't.
No.
Hey, Pat Riley is a very creative guy. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure he's going to be doing everything he can to keep him there.
Wouldn't you think that most of this has to do with the fact that they just kind of folded during the...
Oh, you saw the look on his face. He looked like a man who had his children, taken away from him. I mean, he looked like a guy who had lost everything in the world.
But I will say this: outside of San Antonio, name a team that's better than Miami.
No,
in the Eastern Conference.
Not the Thunder.
Yeah, not the Eastern Conference.
Or just even the Thunder. It just doesn't have, they're just missing.
Well, you got to have three superstars.
Yeah.
You don't have 3 superstars on the Thunder. You got 2.
Yeah.
Most teams are lucky if they have 2. The Warriors have 1. And the Warriors, everybody around here on the Bay Area, the Warriors are going to challenge next year. They may make a challenge for the conference finals, but you got to have 2 or 3.
You know what? It's too bad Kevin Love's not coming.
Yeah.
No, they don't want to give up Klay Thompson to get him, and I don't blame him. That guy's too good defensively.
I wouldn't give him up either.
No.
I mean, that's too much.
That guy's going to be a heck of a. He already is a heck of a player.
Yeah, even the Lakers fished around and said, "Yeah, we'll give her a 7th overall pick if you give us Clay." No, sorry.
Hang on to that guy. He's a special talent.
Well, it's just like the San Antonio Spurs. Kawhi Leonard, man, he's the man of the future.
Ooh, boy, is he?
Don't you think so?
Yeah,
I
do.
Because
22 years old.
Young guy like that, and have so much happen for him. Good
And
for
he's
him.
so calm. He just seems so relaxed, which is nice to see for a young guy. Usually these people are all hyped up, and he's very, very focused.
One quick thing here. What do you guys think about how the U.S. Patent Office finds the Redskins name offensive after all this time?
So what's the deal? They took the Redskins exclusivity hold on the Washington Redskins logo and the name. Is that right? The brand? Is that right? The patent office, they dropped it.
I'm not sure. I will say this. Steve's a history freak, and so am I. George Preston Marshall, who was the owner, was a vicious racist who would not allow blacks to play on his team until he was forced by the league to bring in Bobby Mitchell in a trade.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of a guy you don't want to remember, unfortunately. And he's the guy that pushed this name. And for that reason alone, I say get rid of the name. I know it's upsetting a lot of the fans, the hardcore fans. But I understand the other side.
I mean, that's the one name that I can understand being, offensive.
Yeah.
Chiefs, Braves, that to me, that's
even
not offensive. That's
even
gonna
Indians, which is a misnomer because it is in India. It's that's
exactly. Yeah.
I think for every person you find that being offensive, you'll find a Native American saying,
But how many true Native Americans are there left in this world? I mean, they're really.
True. There's been so much inbreeding and stuff.
I know.
I wouldn't
That's
say
what I'm
it.
saying.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to cut to our last commercial break here. Again, the theme is sports. Who have we got here? We got TV show athletes on the show Seinfeld. There we go. All right. Which Yankee was asked to hit 2 home runs for a little boy in the hospital by Kramer, similar to Lou Gehrig and Pride of the
there you
Yankees? The first 3 emails with the correct answer. You guys know this one?
I have to say, I didn't watch a lot of Seinfeld because I didn't watch a lot of TV because I was always working at night.
I remember the episode.
You remember this episode? Okay. So which Yankee was asked to hit 2 home runs for a little boy in the hospital by Kramer? I have to laugh at this. Funny. Similar to Lou Gehrig in Pride of the Yankees, the first 3 emails with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouses, or email edward@sportsecon101.com the answer to that question. And don't touch that dial, because when Sports Econ 101 comes back, I've got some very interesting thoughts for the day. I don't know if you guys know this story about Gaylord Perry, but to me it's quite fascinating. And we're going to thank our guest again, Steve Travers, for giving us an update on the OJ trial. How's it going?
Yeah.
Is it still going on? Where's the Bronco?
The jury is still
Still
sequestered.
out, yeah. All right. Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back.
I don't know if I know the answer to this one.
No, I don't know.
Was it Bernie Williams? Was it?
Is it early 90s?
I liked Seinfeld, but
It's like Jeopardy, where you push the button saying you know the answer, and then suddenly it's like, oh.
You know who did really well on Jeopardy was Andrew Baggerly.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
he made a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, he's married to a very bright woman. His wife is some kind of a college professor at Stanford or something, and I don't know if she's got a PhD, and she's the one who makes most of the money. Andrew says, I just do what I do, being a sports guy on Comcast. So that's smart. It's good to marry a smart woman. My wife is smarter than me, and that's why this little one over here is probably going to have some brains, hopefully.
Molly, is that true? Your mom's smarter than your dad? Yeah.
She's sitting there nodding her head. Yeah.
She's smarter about important stuff, like for teaching instead of sports. She's not smart about sports.
Yeah, she
You
knows
gotta
enough.
go with the smart stuff. Important stuff.
Yeah, I know. God, my problem is I've been like Vernon's the same way. We're perpetual children. We've been around sports all our lives. We love
Movies and
Yeah.
movies and sports.
Yeah, I know.
So much.
Speaking of, how are your kids doing, Vern?
They're doing well.
And
Yeah.
now, you got, again, it's 14,
Three
11.
boys. We go 10, 13, and 15.
Wow.
That's not rambunctious.
Yeah, man. And Vernon's got so much energy. I don't know how you do it, buddy.
Middle one just got back from Tahoe.
Sweet. How's the swimmer doing? Is his arm better?
Zach's Zach's
Are they gonna go
back in
camp?
action.
Private schools.
Oldest one hit. Franks. He currently goes to TAM.
Those
finished-
15-year-old.
The 15-year-old just finished his freshman year at
That's the
TAM.
great thing about Brandon.
They've had some good teams in the last couple of years. They've
Yeah,
improved.
They all of a sudden a couple of years ago they woke up and became Marin Catholic.
Yeah.
And boom, like that, and everything. It's amazing.
All right, here we go to finish up. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, last time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn.
Backtrack, wall gone.
Bruce McGowan.
OJ Simpson scores for USC!
And the Buffalo Bills.
And the Buffalo Bills.
Okay, and
Let's not
our
disrespect
special
Buffalo.
guest, Steve Travers, who's given us an update on the OJ trial. I'm sorry.
Pitcher's mound at Dodger Stadium has got to be the loneliest place in the world right now.
Okay, when we get to the third final commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Again, the theme is athletes in the TV show Seinfeld. Which Yankee was asked to hit 2 home runs for a little boy in the hospital by Kramer? Similar to Lou Gehrig in Pride of the Yankees.
Boy,
Anybody?
got to be somebody fairly anonymous.
I thought I thought it was like was it Bernie Williams?
No, but he was in one of the episodes.
Jorge Posada?
No? He might have been...
Dave Winfield's too old.
Dave Winfield's too old.
Not Jeter, because he's too young.
No,
he's too young.
Jeter wasn't with the team, right?
Yeah.
Paul O'Neill.
Paul O'Neill, of
Oh,
course.
yes.
Number
Okay.
21.
Yeah.
Okay, thoughts for the day. In 1963, baseball pitcher Gaylord Perry remarked, "They'll put a man on the moon before I hit a home run."
That's right.
On July 20th, 1969, a few hours after Neil Armstrong set his foot on the moon, Gaylord Perry hit his first and only home run.
And
Wow.
the Giants won that game, too.
You know, and I'll bet that he knew he could hit a home run at any time he decided to hit it then.
Yeah.
Okay, and who said, "The pitcher has got only a ball, I've got a bat. So the percentage of weapons is in my favor, and I'll let the fellow with the ball do the fretting." Who said that?
That's a good one. I don't know.
None other than Hank Aaron himself.
Oh.
I'd say
Hammer and Hank.
Hammer and Hank, he knew what he was doing.
First time I was starstruck in the Bay Area was with Hank Aaron.
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw him play
Yeah.
a couple times.
Yeah.
Lucky enough.
be awesome. I tried to take a picture of the television when he hit it off Val.
I can remember, in
couldn't do it.
fact, watching Hank Aaron really schooling Dusty Baker during batting practice, like going, like really giving him a lot of advice.
Really?
Yeah, I remember why. I'd get to the games early. It was at Candlestick.
All right.
Dusty Baker on deck when number 715.
That's
right.
Tune in
Yeah.
next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and giving away more free vacations for answering sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long. That was
Well,
fun.
what do you think, Molly?